What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Car Lot, the only automotive podcast in the South Puget Sound. Why should you follow this podcast? Well, you're going to learn a lot about the auto industry from the inside out. So we cover everything in here from where the auto industry used to be, where it is now, and where it's going. We're also going to talk about how Northwest Motorsport fits in with all of it and how Northwest Motorsport is an innovator in the industry and changing the game. So we're going to tackle a lot of issues here as well. We know there's a lot of anxiety and mystery that people feel about the car buying process. So to kind of springboard off that, Colin, you reached out to some people this week and got some feedback, didn't you?
I did. I got quite a bit of feedback, actually.
So I have no idea who he contacted or what was said, but he reached out to between 15 and 20 people and asked for some input about what they dislike or dread about buying a car. And some interesting feedback, huh?
It's not surprising that there's some elements of the car business that people did not like.
Right. I was surprised how long the list was.
It was a gigantic list.
We narrowed it down to what we think is kind of the most important. So what'd you come up with?
Well, the biggest thing that people mentioned was that they're worried that the sales representative has a agenda, that they're out for the single sale, the quick sale, and just trying to get a dollar, I guess.
Like from the moment they say hello, they're just plotting on the path of least resistance.
How to get that deal, yes.
To make a deal.
Yes. So that was one of the main things that stood out to me throughout the interview questions I had for past customers, present customers, and also for those who didn't buy from us.
Well, that's a valid concern. Unfortunately, there are still a lot of salespeople in the auto industry that operate that way. They're very transactional, and it's just all about,
making that dollar.
Making the dollar, and they never see the customer again. It's unfortunate. I've never taken that approach, but I've worked with people over the years that operate that way.
So now what are some specific things you do to avoid that approach?
Well, I think it's all about the customer getting what they wanted, what they set out to get. I want to help them accomplish, I want them to leave with a car because I helped them get what they want, not because I won the game or defeated them. You know what I mean?
Well, if we walk in asking for a truck and walk out with a Honda Civic, you're probably not going to put us in that seat, right?
You still have to understand that about 85% of the customers buy something other than what they set out to buy.
Yeah.
So you have to ask questions, They may think they're there to buy a CRV, but after you mention the vehicles that are competitors to that vehicle, they may like one of the competitors better. And you still accomplished everything they wanted to accomplish. You just have to pay attention to what they're saying. Ask lots of questions and, feed the answers back to them. Let them know you're listening and that you're trying to help them, You're trying to help them
makes sense.
Buy something. You're not trying to sell it to them.
Yeah. So the next thing that I noticed throughout the interviews with the customers was multiple people use this terminology, actually. They were worried about getting ripped off.
Ripped off,
Just getting ripped off. And that stood out to me. And with today's tech the way it is and online sources, I mean, Car Gurus has their price evaluation. KBB has their evaluation. You've got all these different sources that have their valuation on the cars. It's surprising to hear that customers are worried about that still.
Right.
And I guess you've got some of those old school dealers that do that kind of thing. But
ripped off. That's kind of a two-way street because I've talked to a lot of customers over the years that have said to me they got ripped off on their last vehicle purchase. But after I asked them questions, I come to find out that they went into it with, a 500 credit score, had no money down, and rolled negative equity from their previous vehicle.
Okay.
So that's not getting ripped off. You actually ripped yourself off. You came to the equation with really nothing to help yourself. So, have some accountability, customers. You're not necessarily getting ripped off when you come to the table with really, nothing to help your situation. So, but, I've also talked to people that, feel like they paid way too much for a vehicle or didn't get enough for their trade. And, I think ripped off is a very subjective term, though. So
Yeah, I can see that.
each individual situation, you got to kind of like dig into it.
But the days of a dealership marking their vehicle up by thousands of dollars and this extravagant amount of money that the dealership is making so much money. I mean,
Right.
that's pretty much null and non-existent now. I mean,
Well,
as a consumer, you can go online, you can check out your vehicle, see what its valuation is, and if you're $10,000 overpriced on a vehicle, you're not going to make it far. I mean,
right. Well, the customer is more educated now than they've ever been.
yeah,
Actually,
it's nice.
I got in the car business in 2007, which coincidentally is the year that the iPhone came out. And in that time, I've always dealt with pretty educated customers. There's so much information available at your fingertips. Dealers can't price themselves out of the market.
Yeah,
You know what I
it's true.
mean? If you're the highest priced car in all the land, your car's going to sit there for quite a while. So, but the industry as a whole has become more transparent, and you know, with all that information that's available at people's fingertips, it's easy to get on there, do a market search, and find out if the asking price
Yeah.
is a fair one. And what we do to kind of set people at ease, our pricing is based right off of TrueCar and Car Gurus. So
Yeah, we do use
if you look at
Car
any
as
car
well.
on our website, it has the Car Gurus rating right there. So I believe all of our inventory is rated fair or better.
Well, no, because we've got lifted vehicles actually have they can't take into account
Right.
aftermarket
Okay. So certain
accessories.
specialty
So,
vehicles that have accessories on them, they would be
mhm.
over book, but that book value is not factoring in those accessories or
That
the rarity
FabTech
of the
lift
vehicle.
and that the Toyo
That's a good
tires.
point.
Yeah,
Right.
those MTs are not cheap.
What else do they give you?
Okay, so this one comes as no surprise to anyone that's ever bought a vehicle. It's the amount of time it takes to buy a
The
vehicle.
amount of time. It can be very time
Every
consuming.
single person mentioned this actually, and there's different ways of overcoming the amount of time. There's all the paperwork that goes into it, but
Right.
every single person mentioned time, 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 time. So
Well, I would say on average it takes 3 hours to buy a car.
yeah, I can see that.
It just does. Even if you know the car, you come in and know exactly what car you want to buy. If the salesperson is efficient with the paperwork, if the negotiation goes easy, it's still an average of 3 hours. They can be
It
done
takes a
in
while.
two. I've done some car deals in under 2 hours, but I would say three is the average. But you know what? Everything I'm hearing there is that the customer just wants a very streamlined car buying experience.
I think in today's world, yeah, I think everyone's looking for that optimal experience.
So
Not to get ripped off.
I mentioned
Not to have an
before,
agenda.
I'm the Joy Drive rep for Northwest Motorsport. Joy Drive is right above me here. I think Joy Drive is tailor made for the customer that feels all these things. It's the future of car buying. It's the easiest car buying experience possible. You don't have to spend any time at the dealership. You don't have to wonder if you're paying a fair price because the pricing is set. It's the same for everyone, and it's fair. It's based off of TrueCar and Car Gurus, and you literally can buy a car while you're at home, under a blanket, in your pajamas, or at work, on your lunch break, you can buy a car.
I'm still waiting for the day someone buys a car in their boxers, just for kicks and giggles, just so you show up and they're in their boxers. It'd be hilarious. I mean, it's gotta go online eventually. It's
We're going to
gonna
dive
happen.
really deep into Joy Drive in a future episode. We're going to have
Okay,
some of the
cool.
managers at the corporate level here for Joy Drive. But yeah, I've enjoyed my time as the Joy Drive rep for Northwest Motorsport, and the feedback that I get consistently at those deliveries is that it was the easiest car experience they've ever had. Literally they didn't have to spend their weekends going from lot to lot, and they didn't have to spend 4 or 5 hours at a dealership, and they felt like the pricing was fair. So
I was looking online the other day. They've got like over 15,000 vehicles listed on that site now too. It's pretty
right.
crazy.
So
I mean,
Northwest Motorsport was the first dealership to participate, and I believe now we have 60 plus nationwide.
wow.
So it's growing rapidly, and it's going to become a more mainstream way to buy a vehicle. It's still kind of a new concept, but more and more people are catching on to it.
I love it. Well, I think we're running Gonna get our first guest on. You ready
Yeah,
to do
we're
this?
gonna take a moment to get some sponsorship recognition, which means you're gonna watch a Northwest Motorsport commercial because we're our own
Trucks, and
sponsor.
more trucks.
We'll be back.
Bone Nose Trucks. Ford, Toyota, GMC, Chevy, Dodge, you name it, Bone knows it. Four-wheel drive, lifted, and diesel trucks. Get yours at NWMSrocks.com. That's Northwest Motorsport. Shop NWMSrocks.com and get yours at Northwest Motorsport in Tri-City.